After an impressive run by the Boise State Broncos in 2024, a lot of attention was put on the Mountain West. This is a conference that's super fun to watch, and this year it's as deep as ever. We're going to take a look at win totals for that conference as well as the Pac-12, since some of these schools will be going to the Pac-12, to see what we should expect from teams this year. We'll start with Air Force, and this is the team that, even though they struggled last year, win total is set at 5.5. And this is a team that, again, with the triple option, you should be able to bounce back. They have quite a few players returning, and the schedule does provide them opportunities to win. They should start the year 2-0, though that Utah State game could provide some challenges. They do have a pretty tough stretch after that. Boise State, Hawaii, Navy, and UNLV are all on the schedule next, but the second half of the season does give them more opportunities as well. You play Wyoming, that team should be better. Army, we'll see what happens there. Rivalry game. San Jose State should be pretty good. UConn should be good as well. New Mexico probably takes a step back, and Colorado State. So again, there are wins on the schedule, but if I had to lean one way, I'm probably taking the under. Boise State's win total is set at 9.5, and this is a team that it's going to be tough to get to 10 wins this year for sure. When you look at the schedule, they start at USF. That is a team that should be much better than they were last year. Then you get Eastern Washington and Air Force. App State comes to town. That is a team that could be much better as well. So those are two tougher games in the beginning. You also have to face that triple option attack at Air Force. You then get your monster test of the year going to Notre Dame. Now, while I do not expect them to win that game, that's going to give me a good idea of if this team is truly ready to win the Mountain West again. And you're probably thinking, well, it's not a conference game. Why does it matter? Without Ashton Jeanty, this offense has to kind of go through an image change. They're still going to run the football. There's no question about that. This is a team that is still very much going to give the ball to their running backs, but can the passing attack be more of a factor? Can Maddox Matson truly be efficient without his star running back? Again, they're probably losing that game, but how tough they play Notre Dame, and maybe they do surprise us with an upset, but right now I'm putting that as a loss. You get New Mexico at home before you get another big one at UNLV. UNLV is a team that is going to remember what happened last year. They understand what happened to those matchups, and Dan Mullen is hoping to reverse that trend, to be able to get UNLV in the winners column in that certain category. When you look at UNLV, they have a ton of talent being brought in from the transfer portal, and it might take some time for them to get up to speed, but by this point, they should be ready. You then go to Nevada and host Fresno State. The second half, honestly, is outside of UNLV is manageable. Nevada, Fresno State, San Diego State, Colorado State, Utah State. You should be able to win those games. The USF and Notre Dame games will be the toughest. The UNLV and App State games are going to dictate if this team goes over. I think that the over does hit. I think this team is still very much a quality team that is going to make another run at the playoff, and it's just going to come down to how well they play against Notre Dame. Colorado State's win total is set at 5.5, and honestly, I really want it to be over, but it's going to be tough. The roster was severely depleted, but there are some players coming back. You start the year with a loss when you go to Washington, but then you have some kind of coin flip games. You will beat Northern Colorado, but then you play UTSA at home. That is a UTSA team that will have a prolific passing attack, so stopping them will be tough. Washington State's going through a transition, and there's plenty of new talent on that roster, so that'll be an interesting game. It's also at home. San Diego State should be better. That's a road trip. Fresno State's going through a coaching change. Hawaii is going to be a better team. Same with Wyoming. You then get to the tough second or the end stretch in November. You play UNLV at home. Then you go to New Mexico and Boise State before ending the year with Air Force at home. Now, when I look at this schedule, I'd like to think that Colorado State can get to a bowl game. And when you look at some of these games, if they're able to kind of surprise people, beating Washington State would be a great way for the over to hit. If they win that game, I feel confident. Same thing with the UTSA game. I'm going to lean the over. I trust Jay Norvell and what he's able to do. I don't know how many more wins above 6 they'll get, but I'm going to go with the over here. Fresno State is going through a transition, and it's going to take some time for them to get this new identity on the tracks, and for Matt Entz to be able to establish his culture. The schedule this year also might give them a little bit of trouble. They're going to have a tough time, and the win total is set at 6.5. They start at Kansas, and then they host a Georgia Southern team that should be very good. Then they go to Oregon State. Those are three tough games. There is a possibility they could go 0-3, but also I think that they do have, I don't think they can beat Kansas, but I do think they have the ability to beat Georgia Southern and potentially Oregon State. So you could be 2-1. You'll get your first win for sure if you don't have it already when you face Southern. And then you go to Hawaii for a tough road test. You have a nice little stretch with Nevada, Colorado State, and San Diego State before you go to Boise State. And then you end the year with Wyoming, Utah State, and San Jose State. I am normally really high on Fresno State. I normally really like this program, but this year I think it's going to be a little bit of a step back. I still think they make a bowl game, but I'm going to go with the under here. Hawaii is a team that I've been high on ever since the season ended. I think Timmy Chang is doing a really good job of putting his roster together and getting this culture back to what it once was, especially when he was in college. You look at the schedule, it gives you two tough games right off the bat, but you could also look at it. There's two opportunities to pull off upsets. Stanford and Arizona are going to struggle this year. Now, how much is really the question? We'll find out pretty quick. If they both lose to Hawaii, it's going to be a long year. And I think that the Rainbow Warriors have the talent coming back. Now, a lot of that stems from Micah Alejado and what he can do at the quarterback position. The passing attack for Hawaii, the offense as a whole, should be fairly electric, and those teams have defenses that might have some troubles. Then you get Sam Houston, you get Portland State, Fresno State, all at home before you go to Air Force, host Utah State, and go to Colorado State. That is a nice stretch there. Win total is 6.5, and right there, you probably could hit your win total before you go to San Jose State. You also don't have to play Boise State. You do play San Jose State and UNLV, but you play a lot of the bottom teams of the conference. So that's a really nice stretch for this team. So then again, to start November at San Jose State after 2 weeks off, then you go San Diego State at home, at UNLV, and Wyoming. I'm going to hammer the over. I'm high on this team. I think they're going to be a breakout team in 2025, and those first two games will give us an idea of how exciting this season will be. Nevada is tough because last year they looked like a much better team than their record indicated. When you watch their games, they played a lot of teams tough. And I think that they have an opportunity to be a surprise team if they're able to put things together. They did lose quite a bit in the transfer portal, so it'll be different guys running the show. You start the year with a loss when you go to Penn State. You then host one of the more interesting FCS teams coming into the 2025 season with Sacramento State. Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky are next. Then you get into your conference play. You go to Fresno State, host San Diego State, and to New Mexico to get things started. Those are games that, if you are ready, you could potentially win. Boise State at home to end October gets you into the final stretch where you go to Utah State, host San Jose State, to Wyoming, and host UNLV. Now, you do your three toughest games in conference play are at home. The road trips are also a little bit of a challenge, though overall you feel like if you're one of the bottom teams, everything might seem like a challenge. Jeff Choate has a lot of exciting things going for his program despite that turnover. And I think that if you're optimistic about this team, the over should definitely hit. They were tough last year, and if they even take a slight step forward, 4 wins should be no problem. New Mexico had a fun year under Bronco Mendenhall, and this year, it's a little bit different. You bring in a new coaching staff, so there's going to be a culture change, and that's kind of a jolt to the system, and a lot of the talent does depart. You start the year at Michigan before hosting Idaho State. Then you go to UCLA. Now, you should be 1-2 at this point before you host New Mexico State. I don't know how that game will go, but I don't really feel optimistic about the Aggies, so you should be 2-2. Starting off conference play with San Jose State and Boise State on the road is not a fun way to get things going. You then get Nevada and Utah State at home. The final stretch includes a road trip to UNLV, hosting Colorado State, to Air Force, and San Diego State. I think that this team does take a step back. They were 5-7 last year, so I think that this is a team that is going through a little bit of a change. It's going to take some time for them to get back to a potential bowl team. So right now, I think I'm going to lean the under because I'm optimistic about so many other teams besides this one. Sean Lewis knew that he had a lot of work to do at San Diego State, but honestly, if he can win at Kent State, there's no reason to believe why he can't do the same with the Aztecs. And the beginning of the schedule gives them an opportunity for the over to hit. You start with Stony Brook, but then you do get Washington State and Cal. But I think that's an opportunity for this team to see where they're truly at. Those are two teams that are going through transitions themselves, and San Diego State is looking to build momentum. Playing strong in those games is an opportunity for that. You end non-conference play at Northern Illinois, and then your start to conference play does give you coin flip games. Colorado State, at Nevada, at Fresno State, Wyoming, and at Hawaii. Those are games that San Diego State, if they truly are better, can win. They can definitely win those games. I don't have concerns if this team truly does take that step. Your final stretch is a bit challenging. You get Boise State and San Jose State at home, but again, those games are at home, and then New Mexico. So I'm going to go with the over here. I trust John Lewis. I've seen him do it in worse situations, and I think this team does take a step forward. While everyone is kind of picking Boise State or UNLV to win the conference, San Jose State is a team to keep an eye on. They start the year with Central Michigan, so they'll get their first win right off the bat. They then will get a tough wake-up call when they go to Texas. But I think that they know that. They know that's not a winnable game, and they're just going to do what they can to get out of there healthy. They then get Idaho, and then a potential big win when they play Stanford. Now, I say big win. Stanford's not going to be a good team, I don't think, this year. So that might not be as exciting as it once was, but getting a Power 4 win is a great way to build momentum. And especially when you head into the stretch that they have with conference play, you're going to be really excited. New Mexico, Wyoming, Utah State, Hawaii, Air Force, Nevada, San Diego State, and Fresno State. You avoid some of the bigger names. You do not have to play UNLV. You do not have to play Boise State. So you avoid two of the top teams, and you also get much of the bottom competition. If you do not get the over here, it's going to be a problem. Ken Niumatalolo is really exciting. He knows what he's doing. He has an offense that should be electric, and this is a team that I'm very confident hits the over. Now, UNLV has a lot of work to do. There's a lot of roster turnover, but there's still a lot of excitement. Vegas is very high on this team because their win total is set at 8.5. Now, when you look at the schedule, it's kind of easy to see why. You start the year with Sam Houston before you host UCLA. That is a game that'll be really fun to watch, and I think that UNLV has a good chance to win that one. Idaho State and Miami of Ohio end at the non-conference play, and then you kind of get into a little bit of a warm-up before you do play Boise State in conference play. You play Wyoming and Air Force before you face the Broncos on the road. That one will dictate a lot about if this team is capable of winning this conference. You then go New Mexico, Colorado State, Utah State, Hawaii, and Nevada. So if you're looking at a reason for this team to hit the over, it's because you have two games that you're not, are kind of uncertain. UCLA, they can definitely win. Boise State, I think they definitely can win that. It's just going to be tough. That being said, even if they lose those two games, you're still comfortably with the over. So I'm going to go with the over. I feel very good about that. Utah State is going under a little bit of a change. You bring in Bronco Mendenhall to potentially fix this team. And this is a team that can compete in the Mountain West. Now, the win total is set at 4.5, so it might take a little bit of time before they actually get back to that point. You start the year with UTEP, and then you go to Texas A&M. You then host Air Force and McNeese. So if you get to a 3-1 start, then you feel pretty good. Air Force also will be challenging, and you're obviously not beating Texas A&M. Also, really deep sleeper. Don't sleep on UTEP, especially when you're going through a transition. But with Bronco Mendenhall running the show, I don't have concerns about them winning that first game. You then go to Vanderbilt for realistically your second loss of the season, and then you go to Hawaii and host San Jose State. So that is a tough stretch. You face all three of the top teams in terms of win totals in this conference, and that could make for some troubling times. So right now, if you're looking at Utah State as a team that could potentially win, you look at probably the UTEP and the McNeese games as wins. And then after that, it's a matter of finding 3 more wins. I don't know if you're going to find them on the schedule, but Bronco Mendenhall probably has something up his sleeve. San Jose State, New Mexico, Nevada are next, and then you end the year with UNLV, Fresno State, and Boise State. I trust that Bronco Mendenhall will rebuild this program. I'm going to lean the under here, but it's not something that I would bet on by any means. Wyoming should be a better team in 2025. That's not much I do know. I think the offense does take a little bit of step forward. Caden Anderson is back, and I think that he is going to be a better passer in 2025. 5.5 is the win total right now, and it'll be tough for them to get that early in the season. You do get Akron and Northern Iowa. Those should be 2 wins, but then you do host Utah, go to Colorado, and then host UNLV and San Jose State. Now, 3 of those 4 games are at home, but those are tough teams to beat. Those are going to be tough games for sure. The final stretch, though, is nice. You don't see Boise State. You do get Air Force, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Nevada, and Hawaii. So if you're looking at this team and you're looking for wins, I think they are definitely on the schedule. It's just that you might only have two. You might enter the second half of the season 2-4 and still feel optimistic about what this team can do. Now, you do have to win 4 games to get to a bowl game, and I think that they are on there. If this team truly does take a step, the over should hit. Another one that I'm probably staying away from because I don't have a ton of confidence, but I do believe they'll be better this year. Now we go to the Pac-12 with only 2 teams. We kind of just lump them in with the Mountain West like we've always been doing. And Oregon State is up first. The win total is set at 6.5. They bring in Malik Murphy at quarterback, and a lot of people think that they're going to be better. We'll find out pretty quick. They do face Cal right off the bat. That one will be an interesting game to kind of give us a gauge of where this team actually stands. Fresno State is up next, and then a brutal stretch of Texas Tech, Oregon, and Houston will make life very difficult. So if you are not with 2 wins, you're probably sitting at 1-4. If you're at 0-5, that's a rough one. Then you go to App State, host Wake Forest, host Lafayette, and then the first of 2 games against Washington State, Sam Houston, Tulsa, and then the second game against the Cougars. Honestly, 6.5 feels kind of high. Maybe Trent Bray has something ready for this team. This team is playing with a lot of confidence, but finding 7 wins is not something I can do right now. I would go with the under right here. Washington State lost a ton of talent. They lost their coaching staff. They bring in a new coaching staff from South Dakota State. Jimmy Rogers had a lot of work to do to replace the talent that he lost, but he does bring a ton of jackrabbits with him. And that's a talented group that knows what it takes to win. It just might be hard to find the wins on this schedule, especially if you have a bunch of new guys coming in. Now, the first 3 games give you opportunities. You face Idaho, San Diego State, and North Texas. Those are games that we'll find out pretty quick if this team is going to hit the over. So 3-0 start is possible. You're going to lose to Washington. I firmly believe that. You lost too much talent for that to potentially happen. Then you go to Colorado State, another game that you could potentially win. You go to Ole Miss and Virginia after that before returning home to face Toledo. Then first of those 2 games against Oregon State, Louisiana Tech, James Madison, and then the second game against the Beavers. That's going to be a schedule that when you initially look at it, you think probably under, right? There are definitely winnable games. There are games that you could potentially see them getting back to a bowl game. Conservatively, I'd probably go the over, but with so much turnover, another one I'd probably stay away from. And it'll be fun to see how this changes when this becomes the Pac-12, when these teams kind of merge together and some of those stay in the Mountain West. College football, unfortunately, is changing so much. So the win totals will change, the schedules will change, and conference play versus non-conference play will also change. But this is going to be fun. Let me know who you think the over is going to hit for, who the under is going to hit for, and maybe a surprise pick for this year. As always, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.